Welcome to the weekly analysis in lieu of a meeting tomorrow. Um, I'm going to do an analysis um, and go through a few pairs that I think will likely move at some point this week. So let's get started. Um, let's see. First, we have for the Forex pairs, we have AUD CAD. And when I go to the weekly, um, price sold for the week. So now if I go down to the daily, we had a close below the daily low. And if I go to the 4 hour, down to the 1 hour, I think it's what I marked up. Uh, 15 minute. So based on the last leg of structure, which is here, this um, this last leg of structure here. So my thoughts is that price would buy up into this zone and then start selling um, down into, um, if you trade the imbalance, down into this imbalance here. That's about 50 pips if it comes all the way down to the demand zone. It's around a 77 pips. And if it decides to continue selling um, based off of, excuse me, based off of structure, um, it could come down a little more. So this is what I would be looking to trade the sell next week. All right. Next we have CAD JPY. And although we had a bullish 2 weeks, it looks like there must have been a gap or something. But I'm looking at structure. Um, there's a strong key level here. So I'm expecting price to pull back into this zone and continue selling to the downside for about 107, maybe 75, maybe almost 200 pips. Okay. And let's go to the 4 hour. So there was a 4 hour supply zone here. So that's what I marked up. Um, I would definitely, there's a 1 hour supply zone, and then there's a there's a 15-minute supply zone. Let's see how many pips from here to here is approximately 38 or 40, I would say 40 pips. So that would be my stop loss, a 40 pip stop loss for the possible sell to the downside. And then I would be looking for a possible buy from this zone. Okay. EuroCAD. EuroCAD. Let's go to the weekly. So based on the weekly, there's a weekly supply zone here that starts there. Price was pushing up, or price has pushed up to that zone. Um, this was our break of structure here. Now, if I go to the daily, we have this daily structure here that so once price broke here, this was pushed up, it pushed down, and then it pushed up. So this is our swing low. Price has swept that low on the daily. On the 4 hour, I believe it is closed below. Oh, no, it didn't. Nope, it has not closed below. So let me delete that. So depending on, let's see what the 1 hour is doing. So we have this bearish structure here on the 1 hour. So I would be looking for price to pull back into this zone to either for a possible sell, but because price has not closed below this low, it just wicked the low. My thoughts are there will probably be a push out above this, a pullback come here before selling. So, and I'm not going to say don't trade it up. It's up to you. Um, but I would not trade this back up. I would definitely wait to see what price it gives me once it gets in the zone. And if it continues giving bullish structure, then you can wait for it to break, close above this high, preferably on the 4 hour, um, and then wait for the pullback. Set a limit for the pullback for the continuation of a buy, because structure is saying here, 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 and here. And price is not closed below that zone. So one or the two I would be looking for. All right, GA. GA this was the structure. Price pulled back. Now it didn't pull back into, I would have expected price to pull back somewhere up in here. But it just tapped the zone and then shifted structure and then left this imbalance with this order block. So I would be looking to take this sell from here down to these lows. Down to these lows. So that's what I would be looking for GBP AUD. All right, GBP Chef. Based on the weekly, we're at a very strong level of support. We had this break of structure, this swing high, and this swing low. So this is the last internal, and let me just go down to the daily so you can see it a little clearer, or maybe the 4 hour. Nope, you can't see it that way either. But I can see that daily, that this was the last break or higher time frame break, and there weren't any real pullbacks from the zone from here. So I would be looking for price to break these highs. Um, and looking at the daily, um, this was a demand zone. I'm just going to put a buy zone. Just want it to be green. That price is tapped into, right? Twice, three times. Okay. Um, so now if I go down to the 4 hour, and let me remove that so I can see. All right. So now if I go down to the 4 hour, I can clearly see that there has been a shift in structure here. So once this shift in structure happened, I marked up this demand zone. So I'm expecting price to sell down into this demand zone and then start buying. And this is the current structure. So if we get a pullback and then another, you can wait for price to break this high and then get in on the pullback for the buy up, which is around 250 pips. Or you can just set a limit here. That's around 30. We're just going to round it up to 40 pips. Okay. And um, and set your TP to this high, which is 1.09606. That's what I would trade for GBP, um, for G Chef. That's what I would look for. All right. GU. And I've already marked most of these up, so that's why you can see it. Okay. So for GU, this was the last leg of structure. Okay. This was the last leg of structure. Price pulled back to around this almost the 88 and then shifted structure. Okay. Shifted structure here. So once I went down to the daily, there was a daily supply zone. This was a 4 hour. Let me just go to it so you can see it. This was a 4 hour supply that price tapped and sold, right? But because it's still in this bearish structure, I see it selling down to this daily demand zone to then continue buying up into this either to either the 1 hour supply or the 15-minute supply. And it could even take out this high and then start selling. And I'm only looking for sales, one, because it shifted structure. This was the higher time frame break of structure, right? This is the higher time frame break of structure, and then it shifted structure. So now I'm looking for a pullback to 78 or 88, or it might even just be the 50%, at least to the 50%, somewhere in the discounted area. Let's just say that. somewhere between 50% and the 88 for price to pull back to. Okay. So, um, so I would at least be looking for a buy somewhere from here with you having to cover this low. Of course, we're on the daily, so 129 pips is a lot. Um, and unless you're trading like a dollar or less, um, and then I would buy it up into at least the 1 hour supply zone for about 299 pips. So if you traded a dollar, it's either going to be um, $129 stop loss, or you're going to gain um, $299. And of course, instead of just if you don't want to set a limit, you can always set an alert. And once price gets to that zone, you can, which we're almost there. And the reason why I say that because there is also a demand 1 hour demand zone down here. So price could continue selling down to this demand zone before pushing back up to the top side. And if we look at current structure, this is the last 1 hour structure here. Price is already pulled back into that supply zone. And look like it's going to start selling back down to the zone. Maybe it'll come back and give a double top or something, or just keep selling. So I would look for a structure shift here, or at least wait for price to come back to this demand zone before buying up. Or if you're feeling yeah, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I would set an alert. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull this alert right here. And I'm gonna pull this one right here. So that is what I would be looking for GBP USD. NZD Chef. Let's go to the weekly. Um, NZD Chef. So this is the last structural move. This is the swing high. This is the swing low. Price has pulled back but hasn't closed below this low or um, or has wicked the low. So based on the weekly structure, we have a internal um, break of structure here and this internal swing high and currently this internal swing low. Okay, so now if I go to the daily, you can see it here. Um, if you trade fair value gaps, you have a gap here, you have a gap here that price can pull back into and keep selling. So if price is likely going to come sweep this low and then shift structure for a buy. So price is likely going to sweep below, shift structure, and then you can at least buy it up to that high. Um, take your profit there. Yeah, that's what I would look for NZD Chef. USD CAD. All right. So USD CAD is still currently in bearish structure. And I'm looking at the daily, but um, this is the structure. See what the week is giving. So the week gave a bearish order block that rejected. So if I go down to, so as we can see, this was the weekly supply zone, this structure here. So I would be looking for price to buy back up into a, I think I have marked up a, I'm just going to mark up this one right here. Okay. So I would be looking for price to buy back up into this zone. Again, with a very strong level of support. We're still within this bullish structure. Nope, nothing has closed below here. We got a little shift in structure above these highs. So I would be looking for price to pull back into this zone here. And as you can see, there was a melting day on Friday. This pulled back. I believe we'll get another drop and then another pullback back into this zone for a buy. That's USD CAD. USD Chef. Let's go to the daily. So let's go to the weekly. So based on the weekly, we're currently in this um, weekly demand zone. And I just drew it with two lines because I was being lazy. So we're currently inside of an AOI. All right. So now if I go down to the daily and I look at daily structure, this is currently the daily structure. Price has broken below this low. It's broken and closed below this low. Um, so we're still in bearish structure. Now, if I go and look at the internal structure, this is the last internal structure. So I would be looking for price to pull back into, I put that there, um, pull back into this zone here. Of course, this is the swing high, right? So now when I go down in time frame, and that's why I did that. All right, so when I go down in time frame, I'm narrowing down my supply zones. And I'm just going to leave that there. So now that I'm on my 1 hour, um, I can see that we're clearly, this was a break of structure. Oops. I can clearly see that this is a break of structure. And then here is a demand zone to buy from. So I would be looking for price to pull back into this zone for continuation of a buy. All right, USD JPY. USD JPY. So USD JPY is currently ranging and has been ranging for 1, 2, 3, 8, 9 weeks. Has been ranging for 9 weeks. So I'm looking to see based on the weekly. This was the structure. This is bearish structure that price tapped into. And my thought process is it's going to start selling back down to this um, weekly demand zone. I'm just going to keep it here. So I would be looking for price to pull back into the zone. Now I went down to the 4 hour. And let's see, that was a break. That made this the low. And that wasn't a break. So, or was it? Anyhow, I'm looking for a price to sell back down into this zone. Now, with that being said, we're still in bullish structure. This is our bullish structure. This is our swing low that was swept, but price did not close. So I'm expecting price to pull back to this high and possibly keep selling. So right now, this was the last bullish structure here. Prices pull back into that demand zone. So I'm expecting price to buy up to this zone here. Once it gets to that zone, then you can look for a, a shift in structure for a continuation of a sell. All right. So that's it for the Forex pairs. Next, we have gold. So for gold, this was our break of structure. This was our swing low. Okay. Price pulled back into a demand zone and has pushed up to these zones here. I'm expecting price to go up a little more. So I would definitely be looking for a pullback into this demand zone and then a continuation of a buy to 3696 or 37 or at least 3700 to 3700. That's what I see for gold. I wanted to add in stocks that Sean has talked to us about. Um, so as you can see here, we had a break of structure here for the week. So we'll look for price to pull back to then buy up if you are investing. Um, I don't think now would be the time to get in at 245. I do believe at some point, and maybe it'll come up to this supply zone. Maybe it'll come up to this supply zone before selling back down to 215 somewhere and then possibly continuing to buy. All right. Circle Internet Group. I know that when we spoke with Sean the last time, I think we were around, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we were around this area here. And I had talked about if price breaks this high. So if now that price has broken this high, this daily internal swing high, I would be looking for price to pull back into this zone here for a buy and maybe a buy to close this gap or into to this supply zone. That's definitely a swing trade, but you can do some intraday trades as it is breaking structure to the top side. And last but not least, we have TGT, which is Target. Um, I know we were banning Target, but last time Sean spoke, we marked up this demand zone here. Price is tapped or has tapped and is selling down into that zone. Once price breaks this low, then we have this structure here. And then any other structure that it creates within this zone. If it breaks the structure, then we'll look to buy target back up to um, at least this high, at the least. And I say that because I can see that there's a very strong level of resistance here. Okay. And that is all that I have for this week. If you have anything you want to go over, um, just drop it below in the chat and we'll create a video for that pair or for whatever you drop. All right. Thanks. Bye.